the head of immigrations here for visa in German embassy in Jakarta. They said like, yeah, we already have an okay and like already clear with the immigration in Kassel.
Sorry. We are going to live. JJ is now going to set up the live. So he suggested that we just remain. And wait, I need to check. Okay, we're live now.
Okay. Should we say what? Like, halo, apa kabar?
Hello.
Aga Kareba.
Aga Kareba, Reza Afisina and Gertrude Flentge. Thank you so much, Reza Afisina and Gertrude. Reza Afisina now is in Jakarta and Gertrude Flentge is in Amsterdam. And I'm in Makassar. So 3 different time zone.
And good school in Jakarta.
Okay. And good school in Jakarta also.
West Java, Amsterdam. In which part of the region of Amsterdam, Gertrude?
East.
Far
east.
And good school south of Jakarta. I'm in the south of Jakarta, but in the connection of West Java, and then in the South Celebes. So we were like, geographically, we are not that connected.
Yes, but Anna and me, we are in East both.
Yeah. Far East and Far East.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And thank you so much and welcome to Walkie Talkie, the second session. Walkie Talkie is a hanging out, telling stories conducted by ruangrupa to connect with some friends where proximity doesn't refer to something geographical or physical. It's about stories on what it means to work and to live together. I think it's ABC, accurate, brief, and clear. So
accurate, brief, and clear. Okay.
Yeah, ABC. If you wanna add D or E or F, you can find another word. So the second sessions will be hosted by Reza Afisina from ruangrupa. He's an artist and also he has been conducting programs in ruangrupa through ArtLab and some other programs which is till now are running. Walkie Talkie was started since last month and will be hosted every 15th in each month. So today is June 15 and next month will be July 15, the next month and next month. It's always on the 15th. We are now going to start and I give the mic, I hit the ball to Reza Afisina to open the session and also to introduce Gertrude Flentge. Yeah.
Terima kasih.
Terima kasih Mirwan Andan. Thank you very much Mirwan Andan and thank you very much Good School Online. So we are already online live. If you go to stream us at goodschool.art. Saya Reza Afisina. Selamat malam. I'm Reza Afisina. Good evening. I would like to have introduce my dear colleague Gertrude Flentge from the Amsterdam, east of Amsterdam in Netherlands. Actually, there's lots of things been ever since with us in ruangrupa and also together with Gertrude. Even though like not since the beginning, I was like knowing Gertrude, but there's like a time that we were all together in various of ruangrupa's program if back in Jakarta also. So I think like because my involvement with ruangrupa also during that time it is quite important in the sense of what Gertrude already being initiate with the Rijksacademie Artists Initiative Network, or we call it RAIN network. That's like really, for me, during that time, that's really important for me to have lots of different sweet characteristics among several friends that coming from all over nations, as we call it. that's really one of the why we are connected. And as well, like, if I'm not mistaken, even though during that time I'm not like really knowing Gertrude, but in 2000 in 2001 or 2000 you came to Jakarta also, like the first time of Ruang Rupas having or held programs all together. I think during that time also with several other dear friends and colleagues also. And formally we met during the Rijks Academy Artist Initiative Network meeting in Jakarta in 2002, which is we just moved to new space back in Tebet Barat, in the West Tebet. And then we occupy with many lovely friends there.
Yeah.
All around in the big living room. And we share like the humidity and 32 degrees Celsius more.
Yeah.
So I will pass the mic to also, this is really important in our friendship and relation so far, is Gertrude is my dearest Taurian female friends. I pass the mic to Gertrude to introduce more complete. Please, Gertrude.
Yeah, thank you, terima kasih. Yeah, so it's funny you say Rijks Academy Artist Initiative Network, because it started with that name and then we eliminated R for Rijks Academy. So it became Rain Artist Initiatives Network. because there it became a power struggle between the institution and the initiatives. So, but this is like nice, because this is also how I see our relation. Like we are always, like I'm always working in the institution or have been working in the institution, and you from the outside, and together we've been trying to change the institution. No? And then what I really like of ruangrupa is that you don't really care about such a name, Rijks Academy Artist Initiative Network. But still, you really like act on changing. No, in this case, the Rijks Academy, or later on when I was working in Doen.
Yeah.
And then, we met in 2002, you and me. And I have this image of you, like we were traveling with all of us in the bus to Bandung. You were running up and down the bus, arranging things. And it was amazing, because at that time, like so many people didn't have the opportunity to travel, like Hamagoro from Mali. He had to travel like 5 days to arrive in Jakarta, going to Hong Kong first for his visa. And now it's a little bit more normal to do that. But that was amazing.
During that time it was quite a landmark, because ever since that, also like a couple years after ruangrupa get initiated, and also like partly as I mean, in my own opinion, if you during that time like identify yourself as a artist or as a visual artist, sometimes it's also quite disturbing in the sense, in the Jakarta's context or point of views, mostly because like what is how you connect through other initiatives, as you call it, because like ruangrupa since the beginning try to have this sort of practicing one so-called initiative, and partly we know like on how artist collective will work or run. So this was like artist runs initiative, and then suddenly artist collective, something like that, like this kind of new term. And suddenly also we learned during that time through this this network, because in the sense there's also like quite develops all together with this like really necessities on its own grassroots and localities. So they also like develop what's happened in the Belo Horizonte with Seiya, for example, the ones that we just also talking, and also the ones with the El Despacho, for example. And it's like with Hamagoro, with the what's it called, the Centra Soleil.
Centre Soleil d'Afrique.
Centre Soleil d'Afrique. So it was like really nice, and also we could see like how they have very strong characteristics throughout what is artist initiative at that time, because we could learn what the things that happen in Indonesia culturally, if we touch upon like collective or as a community, for example. but in a sense on how it's related to the artist's work or artistic points of view, especially in the Jakarta's context. During that time, I was quite surprised, and I cannot like really on how to explain this to lots of my friends back in the art college, for example, because it's like a new stuff, and then how you're going to practice it or something like that. But in general context, it is really nice because most of the time people could see like, it is good that you could meet like different new friends all around from this network. And also like it is true, like travel wise during that time, it's like really difficult, and plus it also really expensive in the sense, no?
Really, that's still the case, of course. But as you were saying, like that was really nice, I think, from in the RAIN network, because it started to become a kind of movement. Now, these artist initiatives, especially in Africa, Asia, and Latin America, in contexts where there was no art infrastructure or a very rigid one. And like maybe many organizations were copying other models, but I think with the initiatives, the artist initiatives that were in the RAIN network, like they were so, the models were really built on the local necessities, no? So that's what and as you were saying, also like taking into account like the artistic needs or careers of the artist involved. So like, for example, that's how every initiative was articulated so different. And that's why you could learn, like Trama in Argentina, it was really 5-year program because the artist involved didn't want to do it for longer. And it was really kind of parasiting on existing initiatives or organizations, because in Argentina there are many, it's just like they are super rigid. So bringing a new kind of artist practice, and like for ruangrupa, more the issue of space and space to hang out together for development of alternative kind of ideas and reflection on the city. And for example, in Mali, more the necessity of high competition in the art scene, just to have like a very horizontal space, no? Like with no or El Despacho in Mexico, like really built from an artist's needs, artistic needs. So that was really nice, I think.
Yeah, especially like to see like on how lots of these spaces that mostly runs by artists, it's not. I mean, like in the sense like on how it's built up, because it's also in particular, especially to regard that years mostly. We're dealing with different kind of foreign funding. Also like other organizations or other funding organization and other institutions. So that's why it is like really good to have this parallel experience that you cannot like really have it in art school. Like becoming like artist management is like a difference way on how you're dealing with this, like the big institutions all around, and then this hierarchy of workings, like proposals, programs, and report kind of thing. And especially because through your experience that you see on how this necessities being built up by its own local values, which is different in each of every initiative up until now. So before we touch upon the things that happen with art laboratory, for example, then this is like, because this is like the seeds on how everybody's could nurtures everybody's, and also like after all long these years, also like on how you could as well positions yourself, and also together with us in ruangrupa, like we kind of like not monitoring, but it's like we could see each other's, even though from very far, and then to see like on how it's developed into something. It's that really important to gain this kind of experience.
Yeah, for me, like that was of course like a super privilege, because in RAIN, like I could see all those artist initiatives, I could follow them from zero nearly, like only Santo Soleil existed when we really started, but all the others were being built. So to really see from, as you say, the local values, and then how it is being developed and built, that was really like, for me, that was a school, like how I could see, and that's really where still like today, 20 years after, where I think I learned most of, and also about these power relations, as you were saying, not only with funding, but also, for example, curating, like artist initiatives, taking away this layer and doing it themselves.
Yeah.
Like very close to artistic practice and social needs. Yeah, that's
yeah. That's why it's really good to follow, not to follow, but as well like to involve most through this process to getting known, to regards what's so-called initiative, and then working collectively, and then suddenly you try, and also to find out a different kind of way on how you see things happen with your own collective by working collectively, and also, as well like in ruangrupa, in the context, for example, we are really living collectively, like we share rooms. We share any kind of resources that each of any individual also have so far, and by that we could just learn like the things that we could share or not, like even like kind of like a private space, and your own private space inside like a very collective space or something like that. So it's kind of like not theorizing it, but in a sense it was like more into practicalities, because during that time we just, like you said, like we are having sort of a idea on how to beat the needs of space, and also like to evaluate the things that happen with us if we already have a space as a collective, for example, especially as our professions and as an art collective, and also partly individually, we also working as an artist itself. Then suddenly ruangrupa need to organize himself, and it's becoming like the needs becoming like upgrading the needs. Like suddenly we have like financial, we have like ones that becoming like our goalkeepers, for example, like cashier, finance department, probably Dr. Lori or Om Lori, for example, the one like really important for us during that time. And also like partly we have like, for example, Daniela Fitria, also could taking care of our management system altogether, probably now during the time with Sari Julia and also with Ajeng Nurul Aini, for example. Meanwhile, Ade mostly working on checking paper stuff, when others like me and Indra Ameng, we working with the programs. But aside of that, like we live like collectively, so we were like there, like mostly like 24 hours we were there. So it was like, that's really quite big challenge, especially if you mention about the power structures. Because you mentioned about the power structure. Oh, you were there.
This is me. Yeah.
So it was like 2005. It was during the opening of the project called Project 25. It's all like young female artists in Jakarta, from Jakarta.
Yeah. Wow. That's in Tibet, no?
Yeah, it was like in another side of Tibet Barat, but this house, it is like really, what's it called? It's not like really suits to our behavior. Because it was like really close down to everything. It's like not that small, but in a way it was kind of like gesture wise, it's not like really staging for us. No. Yeah, but it's still like a nice place to stay for us, I mean, in general. So I mean, and also like particularly like on how you see the way on how probably like as a characteristic you see like on I mean, within your experience, like you see on how Asia in your context, because you deal with this like mostly friends or even like collective artists now, even like from Asia. Like when the first time you come to like Asia, like is it to ruangrupa in Jakarta or before that?
No, like I had been to Indonesia just for a private trip before, no? Like and for me being from the Netherlands, Indonesia was always in my life. No, like I had a neighbor who was half Indonesian. And I read the books of Pramudia Anantatur when I was young. So like this was my romantic dream, I think, Indonesia. So I had been traveling just after the fall of Suharto through Indonesia. So then when I met Ade at the Rijksacademy, like I really wanted to come back and work also with you, of course. And then, yeah, of course, what you were talking about in terms of collectivity, this is like in all the experiences we have together with RAIN and Arts Collaboratory, like how this manifestates in Indonesia is very particular and something like many people are kind of jealous, no? Also in Africa and Latin America, I think, because yeah, I think you live that through your whole life. Sorry, my family is entering in the meantime.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm a bit distracted. And like also you were telling like how in art school, for example, you were living in the printing workshop together, sleeping together and so on. This is an experience that I think in many other places is not there, no? So, and how that then translates to the organization, like you can still have formal roles or, but still also be completely collective. That's, I've not seen it elsewhere. Like I don't, besides Indonesia, I only know Central Asia quite well, but not other parts of Asia. Like I work with friends, but I haven't been traveling so much. So, yeah, and of course in Africa there is also this collectivity totally, and I think this separation between private and public is similar. But then, like in organizations or institutions, often like the colonial period has killed much more like this collective sense of being. So it's kind of separated from life in streets and institutional life. So I think that's quite unique in Indonesia. No, also when we came with the Arts Collaboratory meeting in, I make a big leap, that was in 2014.
Yeah.
And Arts Collaboratory was a funding program, and then we were kind of in transitioning from being a funding program to becoming a self-organized ecosystem. I think this experience for everyone, 25 organizations in Africa, Asia, and Latin America, this experience for everyone to be in Indonesia and see ruangrupa or see Jatiwangi Art Factory, Life Badge, Kunci, all this kind of similar collective feeling has been super influential also, because like we were discussing all the time already, like how to be in collective or how to be in community with community, and it seems like very organic.
This is the things that yeah, exactly.
Without wanting to romanticize, like it's also not easy, of course.
Yeah, because this is the thing also, like really important point on how we actually learn, not learning, but knowing by way on how you practicing on collectivities. Because like most of the time, I mean, you could have like very luxurious or privilege if you still staying with parents, for example, during your college life. But unfortunately, I cannot. So but it is like one of the big leap as well, because like during that time it was like I mean personally I really love on how suddenly I met like new persons. So that's why like it's also connected to Ade, for example, once that he's in Jakarta, but because ever since that Ade came from Jakarta, so he mostly like visit the things that happen with the in our art school back in Jakarta. But Indra Ameng was there as well. Daniela also was there as well. So the college, when we are college, it's really like the ones that in the way kind of like injected way on how suddenly you deal with the several persons that could tie you up, and then it's becoming your own network suddenly. So that's why like in the beginning on how suddenly we know ruangrupas and also several of its own presentation and other practices to its activities, and then suddenly it's kind of like connected to the things like oh, I never know what is artist talk actually, or like artist in residency or something like that. And then this is like building up the way on how you're thinking, and also like building up on the sense on how you're going to search this capability on knowing. And especially like the first time you know that everybody's in particular in Ruang Rupa's network, which is came from this like really diverse networks all around up until Latin America, the ones that really time-wise like really big difference. Though I mean probably like my mindset is like to the west, but in a sense like, you know, like west of Europe or like Central Asia, there's I'm not knowing about. And also like particularly what happened in the Latin America, and then suddenly I met lots of Latin American friends back in Jakarta. But most of the time actually like the things that we share most of the time is not about on how we work on stuff as a collective. No. Most of the time, as we could say, like we could have like really serious conversations mostly, but most of the time we're just talking about foods.
I was waiting for the subject.
So it was like that's like really on how I mean to romanticizing the way on how one's thinking about the context on collectivities, and then suddenly you share like foods. Then suddenly this exchange of knowledge and needs within space, within journeys, and even we go to Mercado Central to get this.
In Brazil,
in Brazil, and suddenly you said like, do you get this from? I was like, yeah. Oh my god. So it was like, this is like way on how suddenly all these collective memories come, and especially the things that happen to our current condition, Gertrude. So this is also like partly on how suddenly like this collective exercise now is being tested. I don't know on how this reflect to your observations probably, or your way of knowing.
Well, as I also wrote you like how this book you made on cultural management, with all these phrases like make friends not art, dare to lose something, or
siasat,
like phrases you have, like has been for me, like this was knowing you, this was not new, but it's so simple, but to me this has been so influential because especially during the RAIN network, I was also organizing these kind of exchanges with Rijksacademy students, and for example bringing 5 photographers from the Rijksacademy, photography artists from the Rijksacademy to Mali for a workshop, and Hafiz came also from Indonesia actually. But how this was a total clash, This ended up like in fights because the artists from the Rijksacademy, they were totally frustrated because they couldn't talk about why the Malian artists were making documentary photography, because that discourse is not present in Mali, which has a very rich photography tradition, actually, very interesting. So this whole like predisposition of artists at the Rijksacademy, and also because of such an institution and the pressure of the art world around, is kind of forcing these young artists to like hold on to their sense of artistic practice and notions of conceptual photography or whatever, and not being able to relate on the personal level, or to look beyond, to research really why, for example, this photography practice in Mali has developed as it is. That was really a struggle for me in the beginning as well. Like I was organizing these workshops, the artists would come back all frustrated, and I felt very frustrated like that in Mali. Of course, this was very painful to Sandsgelei and the artists there, because it was totally respectless. So I think then looking to ruangrupa, how you deal with this make friends, not art, or like in a way caring a lot for the people you collaborate with or you work with and for the collectivity, and in a way not caring at all about like set paradigms in the art world or set paradigms of how you need to be. I don't know if this relates to what you were saying, but that's what it reminded me of.
There's a lot of things been changing, especially in the last 20 years, as you mentioned already. Because like there's like the basic needs. I mean, back again to our conversation to regard needs and basic necessities. But in a way, it's like it's changing a lot. Not only like the way on how we work on something, but we deal with something and working out onto some things. Like especially, for example, like I think since 2013 up until 2015, once that coming to our collective mind is because we need to strategize ourselves by not depend on so-called funding necessities in the sense. Though for sure we need fund, because like in the sense, because at that point we have lots of like really importances on how to build the necessities on supporting system itself, not only within us internally in ruangrupa or other collective friends like now Serum and Grafis Huru-Hara, for example, but also like on how have the sustainabilities on economic strategy in the way on how this collective deal, because this is kind of like a challenging like the practice on what we already formulated as accumulations on our activities through Siasat's guidebook, for example. But it's also like in particular because we're dealing with the very daily stuff like paying rent for the houses. And also for sure like the payroll, probably because most of the ruangrupa's members and families already having families and kids also. And but we're thinking through this all together. So in a way we need to find out not in the basic needs ideally, but on how we will deal this we will deal with this together. So it's kind of like it's still like in this collective needs. So during that time, I think the words of, for example, like lumbung or common is not in our mind yet, but for sure this practice is already there. So that's why like suddenly when we could have Gudang Sarinah ecosystems, particularly like together with Serum and Grafis Huru-Hara, suddenly we realized that so now we are practicing the way on how the collective of collectives work. And parallel to that, for sure, like most of our collective friends, like you mentioned, back in Indonesia, like Kunci in Yogyakarta, Life Patch also in Yogyakarta, and that's connected to art collaboratory, for example, and also Jatiwangi Art Factory. They have like different systems that could like really working on very back again in this very grassroots, which is this is the things that's really important for us, because seems like we have could be like we could share like our same problems all together, especially with Serum and Grafis Huru-Hara to regard spaces, rent a space, and we don't have any money to do a project or programs, but we not try to homogenize our collective needs. So that's really like really important to know this particular sense on how you saying like I mean when you said like there's like 25 more collective, but in a way they have their own struggles in a sense.
This is totally,
this part of characteristic.
So when you were saying like this was interesting, when you were telling me you will be moving to Gudang Sarinah, like I was really a bit worried, no? Like, I think at that time, like to me, as you were saying, like Lumbung for me is like we've been working on that since 2000. No, it just has different kind of articulations and different language. And the Lumbung we are working now on is maybe the more also has the more economic sides to it. But I think it was always there. And then when you moved to Gudang Sarina, you were using word collectives of collectives. And to me, that sounded like really superstructure, growth. And I think I was saying to Farid, oh no, this like how will you, or to Ade, how will you maintain also this collective sphere, no? Which is also about like having, you always had a space which was a normal house, no? And then moving to this big big structure, and also maybe too worried about economic. Like I was working at Doen Foundation at the funder, no? And we had already kind of experimented quite a lot with investing in more commercial or like models that for independent arts institution to become more independent and autonomous through self-owned funding, and we never had any successful experience. So I was like, oh my god, this is going to be death. But that's really nice. I think that's how that experience in the end like helped you, as I see it from far, to really become this ecosystem with Serum and Graphisch Ruangrupa. And then maybe now seeing like this issue of sustainability also more again, not in the economic sense only, but in the educational sense, or not education in the classical sense, but or like how it's floats down into the entire ecosystem. Yeah. So to me, it's all kind of different iterations or chapters of the same thing.
And also in most of the time when we suddenly talking or discussing this with Graphisch Ruangrupa or Serums, is first that actually we discussing it's about the Ruang Usaha Kreatif, which is the Ruru Corps, the business units. Because that's the first deal on how we talking about the way we articulate on the ecosystem altogether, like the collective of collectives. Because probably if it's in English term, then collectives of collectives, then it's kind of like, it's like you said, like it's like really big, like the
or
the
a super umbrella of the a power structure actually.
And it's becoming like really, what is this, like all star, like in sport, and suddenly you have like your dream team, you know, like that. So in a way, like the things that we are measured during that time is through our financial systems, that we need to find way on how we could like really observe the importances on each of every individuals that have talent in our collective. Because most of the time, the things that happen is like when you work collectively, and at least some of this talent, it's becoming dull because you're not practicing enough. So I think that's also the challenge on how you're working collectively. And suddenly, like,
so you think like in Ruangrupa, because you have been in Ruangrupa like 20 years, no? Like, is this something like, and many of Ruangrupa members are like super faithful, no? Is that because you are able to manage those two things very well together, or is that for another reason?
I think it's always connected to the things like my individual work, to the things that happen within Ruangrupa in as a part of artist collective, and to the things at the supporting system also, in partly like the art laboratory. I mean, the art labs divisions, it's also like, it's always connected. Also like the work on, like, for example, ones that's still practicing, like Indra Ameng, Iswanto Hartono, if Ade Darmawan, for example, or even Daniela with the Ruru Kid, is still like in the way have these connections. And Sari Julia within his own a particular research. So in the way, it still have this sort of connections, though it's not like really literally like really connect, but how we need to always keep us sharp in the sense in ruangrupa we still have this space, so it's kind of like it is suddenly like blend in. It's not like suddenly you have to go to your studios to work on your stuff, then back again to ruangrupa's living room. But in our living room, for example, probably when you already experienced, like in our living room, in the kitchens, for example, or even someone's computers, and then suddenly it's becoming like your practicing ground. So that's why we because we could see this work ethic to have yourself as a collective, thinking collectively, but as individual needs, you could as well strategize and structurize yourself by not avoiding the collective thoughts. So this is like really difficult because I think I mean for me it is easy because it's not about the 20 years of my involvement with ruangrupa, because most of the time since the beginning I was stay there like squatting myself deep down into ruangrupa. So in a way, I know on how to behave, for example, and so that's why it's kind of like after 15 years, for example, like when we start observing this several talents in our friends, also together with Serum and Grafis Suruhara, because we always working together, and then we always share our capability on resources, especially human resources. Most of the time, it's kind of like for example, like as simple as we share like a graphic designer. Like for example, like from JJ in Serum, or MG or Arman dealing with the residency back in ruangrupa, and then suddenly we said like, but we need to introduce this into working capability, to have this like work ethic into profitable way on for living. Also like Serum is already ahead of us, because Serum already registered one of its I think legal as a company, like as a limited, and ruangrupa also learn from them on how to develop this, and then in particular they also involved, and then luckily suddenly when we move to Gudang Sarina ecosystem, then everything we start again in the way on how we practicing living together within collectives, like parallelly or not too overlapping, and then how to share intimacies together with us, management wise, program wise, and for sure as a nongkrong case, it is big, but for sure lots of effort, and for sure we also have lots of different friends within different capabilities becoming like resources, but for sure Gudang Sarina ecosystem is like absorbing our energy, like then feels like we crush. But before that we were also thinking like on how we could deal into this matter, so that's why we're thinking about to having assembly as a majlis, and also not to conduct internally, but also to have like other surrounding as a part of our assembly or majelis systems. So we invite
like other people coming in.
So we invite ones that living with us daily to have like this kind of observing capability on how we are dealing with the space, or working capability, or dealing with the motorcycle parking lots. Things like this.
This I really find interesting also, like how organically you can open and close the space, like for example, also within Arts Collaboratory, this is one of the main struggles, like how after this very intense collaboration with 25, how to have others entered. Whereas when we were in Indonesia Assembly, like very organically, Jatiwangi Art Factory and Life Patch kind of entered. We never discussed it. They just were there and everybody became friends. So I think this is also with your, like in some other contexts, probably this is not possible because of, I don't know, for political reasons or... But like how probably you keep things a little bit undefined, and that's why this openness can.
I think that's like also pro and cons, because you're this undefined wise of method or thinking. and also like partly like on how you practices upon this, because I mean for sure that we understood that each of every neighbor have a different their own system.
Yeah.
But in the way it's like but in the way it's also for us it's quite struggle on how we could articulate this into something matter probably suitable to someone's at Kazakhstan, for example. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is really, I think you, but what I also learned from you, but maybe you don't recognize it, but I think you do.
You have already your answer.
Yeah, it's like you can really live with the uneasiness, no, of things, or like, for example, also with RAIN or Arts Collaboratory, we would have like this very idealistic plans and strict values and ethics of how to collaborate together. And then, I mean, this can also be very, very imprisoning. No, you don't dare to do any step because, like, is it really according to the ethics? And we have to discuss everything out, and you just try, and then it becomes sometimes very uneasy. But that's okay, I think.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
And then from that uneasiness, you learn something, or maybe even something.
Yeah, I
nice
think we
develops or
always
not.
could find uneasiness to becoming very complicated. So
Yeah.
this is like we don't know, or I don't know on how to explain this into like formulations. Though probably like this is also important to see on how what we did on Siasat, not as a guidebook, because it's becoming like a guidebook for us, and because it was kind of like reminiscing on through our old to our past celebrations onto some things like talking about the festivals, talking about the friendships, talking about the way on commoning the institution, for example. Also like on how we have a neighbor or asking partly like silly questions to regard what is ruangrupa actually, and how does this matter. And but now and then suddenly it's becoming like especially now to our current conditions, like most everywhere in the world also, like to regard the things that happen with the COVID-19 issues in pandemic, and also ones that mostly now already setting in the history about the Black Lives, for example. So it's kind of like now the sense of generating this issue through to the needs on way on how we thinking, and also on how we adjust this kind of information is also quite different. Sometimes like as a collective needs or as an artist or individual needs, you need to react or act on something, but in a way you are facing the real deal that you need as well to be put more cautious to the issues, or else you just get trapped, or you just like you just jump to the hardest stream, and then you just if you cannot follow, then you can hang on anything. So that's why it is good to have like everybody's around, and then we learn to from each of every capability to digest these matters. But how do you think, how do you see upon like on how actually people's or most of our friends dealing with this kind of situations? Like, do you have any good example, or else like not a good example, but at least like suitable manner to deal with this kind of issues, especially like probably also, I mean, if it's connected to the Black Lives Matters movement, like if we call it this as a movement, then in Amsterdam also they deal with this kind of matter, no? I mean, I mean, I don't want to touch upon this kind of issues, but in a way like on how probably we could digest this kind of informations all around, because
wow, it's a big question, but I mean, it was funny because the other day, like a friend said, okay, let's like in Doen Foundation, the funder where I used to work, still work, let's set up a fund for projects that relate to the Black Lives Matter movement, no? And then I was kind of thinking, because I work for the Africa, Asia, and Latin America program, like that's every project, no?
Yeah.
We are, so how to highlight it? Like this is, and the same with Corona, like I was telling the other day, no? Like how people are dealing with it. For example, working a lot in Mali again. Like they have gone through so many crises since 2012, and before that even like on the statistics, it's one of the poorest countries, and one of with 75% analphabets, but like a lot of richness in terms of culture. But so Corona situation to them, oh, it's just one more crisis. And actually, they were even in energy, how it transformed also their thinking on how to use the digital to reach other audiences. Whereas like in Europe, we were all for some weeks totally like paralyzed, no? Or so like very romantic on our small social initiatives here. But this is what they like, the solidarity structures they have been having to build throughout, like being 10 years in total deep crisis. It's
because here also, like in particular, we are really not struggle, but in the sense we have this value on solidarities, and then without mentioning it, we mostly solidar in the sense. Throughout of these issues about the nation-wise or the things that happen within our friends outside of Indonesia or around the world, we always put this solidarities into matter. But sometimes because probably on the way on how news now behave, especially to the things that happen in the social medias, to kind of like different kind of issues. Sometimes it's like quite necessities for us to follow, and then sometimes it was just quite make us lost for catching the meaning, or it's because it's a really sensitive matter, like especially like the ones that dealing with these policies necessities or into authorities, and other part is like into someone's life, for example, and then suddenly it's becoming tense. So that's why it is a good chance to every collective everywhere. Then it's becoming like really important to have like a kind of like a joint network, that not only networking that on how you strengthen your sense. Not only like thinking about the safety nets, not only thinking about the way on how it's going to lead to these own futures, but in the sense like this is like the real deal that's happened with us since like 2020s. Like all this talking about these collectivities and all talkings about this way on how one's could initiate themselves to support something, and then now it's becoming like time to rise up and prove something. That
you
you
feel that as well. But for you the start was a similar kind of situation, no? There it was a real a period where you really needed to prove something, no? With the collectivity, like post Suharto
exactly
time.
Probably we are lucky to have this kind of like training transitions, like the New Order regime, and then Reformations era, and then to this particular era. But in a way, like we felt like the all these same conversions all around to regard this the pandemic, for example. So people can like really have the sense on how put solidarity into matter. Not like it's more into like physical distancing, but social solidarity we need to keep close. And then to keep sane and also stay strong all together or something like that. And for sure, it's like the ones that put now to regard like the news upon like demonstration or something like that. It's also like need to be digest carefully. especially in these collective notions in the sense. So that's why like in good school in particular, we kind of like changing the way on how we work, for example, during the early pandemic season back in Indonesia, for example, since March. So we turn everything like upside down from the studios into a workshop for the health equipment, something like that. How this supporting system should work throughout this collective, because we own the space, and the good thing is the good things are because the space we own itself, so we could do whatever we want with our space. So we could also as easy as probably to ask someone to live there if they cannot pay rent, for example, like that. Because this is the things that happen also with me. When the first time I joined Ruangrupa, like because I don't have a place to rent, and so like you could stay here. So like that's that's like the first closeness. Just like when I went to somewhere else, friend's place, and then suddenly they welcome me, and then I could stay in, for example.
So I think that's I mean, in relation to solidarity, like why the sustainability of this collectivity is so important, no? Because you never know when you need it. But like as you were saying, because you have these structures, now you could transform quite easily. And the example I was giving from Mali, like I think the economical and social support, they have already had to practice like very much in the last year. So with Corona, it was actually more about continuing artistic programming as well to give people some hope. Or the other day we were talking to this collective in Kenya, in the slums in Kenya, no, Wajuku. And how, because of their sustained collectivity now, they can immediately turn into like giving direct help in terms of foods for the children and that are in very violent situations, also taking care of the families and so on. And I also saw that in Arts Collaboratory, you know, like for so many years, like spending time together to get to know each other and building trust. And sometimes you question like, oh, is it too luxurious? Is it not a nice club of friends? And we are traveling all around the world. But I felt now with the pandemic, like the trust was so high that we could use like the collective pot that was there for solidarity help in each of the communities of the initiatives, like without any systems or assessing each other too deeply, but react like within 2 weeks. But I think that could only be because of this long-term trust building. Like we don't even know each other in detail, but or this sense of collectivity or collaboration.
I think that's really important what you mentioned regarding the trust, because that's our basic needs. In the sense on how you could hold on something. I mean, the safety net is not about the sustainability or financials, that's quite essentials, but in the sense like the trust and also on how that you could generous within the trust itself, because or else that's like we are trapped sometimes to acknowledge the way on how this trust issues. And especially and then suddenly on how you put respect on this system of trust. If the trust is becoming a more into system, then that's like really quite challenge up until now. I mean,
that's the main thing. And also for me, like working at a funder, you were talking before about how funding institutions, like this was the main thing, no? Like how can you build trust into a funding institution? Or how to build structures that provide trust from a funder or be in relation. Like speaking about uneasiness, that's fortunately I had learned to live with uneasiness from you.
This the things that we are. That's why I think probably in the way on how us mostly like Indonesian friends that you met, we just love to hang out or nongkrong in particular because we could just speak randomly. I mean, the things that happen with us conversation right now is not quite random, even though we don't have any guidelines. But in a way, like in nongkrong, it should be like more random. So we could just put these things.
Well,
random.
If there would be no Zoom, we would only talk foods, no?
If it's not recorded, we're going to share some pictures.
Yeah. Food or Brazil.
Food or Brazil.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, this is like really interesting. The fact that because like as we already know, tomorrow, then we're going to have another Zoom, and also into discussions with other with other collective stuff all around. That's like really important to keep us and energized in the daily needs in the sense. But
Right.
that's like
Yeah.
really important to keep up this space. So how Netherlands or Amsterdam nowadays, Gertrude, if some friends here would like to know what's happened, travel restrictions, because every summer sometime Indonesians mostly going to or European going to Indonesia, something like that.
Yeah, like as I said, I'm in the far east of Amsterdam, and I've been locked in the far east of Amsterdam. And as I also said before we were starting, like most of my friends are not here. Maybe they are in Indonesia or Africa or. No, this is a bit exaggerated. I have friends in the Netherlands, of course, but I always find it very difficult to speak about the Netherlands because in my work I never focus here. No.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can speak from personal experience, of course, being here and. So I think we went also through this, I think maybe in entire Europe, no? Like first panic because of the lockdown, then also like hopeful because of all the social initiatives and even our like very neoliberal government suddenly expressing social thoughts, rethinking privatization of the health system and the social system and so on. But I fear we are slowly moving back to polemics and making this whole situation political again. So yeah, I don't know if it will really have changed something. Like, of course, if you speak about people coming here, like your friends wanting to come here, now is really a nice time because like Amsterdam was becoming kind of like Venice, no? Like overflown with tourists. The center, like when I was at the Rijksacademie that time, the center was still really a place where you would go, no? And now, like we from the east of Amsterdam, we don't feel at home anymore in the center because it's totally like short-term tourists or expats taking over. So, and very universalized with the same kind of shops you have everywhere and so on. So I hope like finally city government will also kind of reconsider how the city is developing. But yeah, since a lot of the land has already been privatized, it will be really problematic and difficult to enact power, no?
Yeah.
But
well, that's another issue, yeah. Land reform.
Yeah.
That's
collective land ownership. Yeah.
That's going to be like our second sessions to talking about the collective land ownerships. Because I think so many friends here as well who didn't have any assets throughout the land itself. Now we're talking about to having lands collectively.
Well, to me, more and more like after all those social issues we've been discussing over the years, it's land ownership is like, or not ownership, like collectives. Ownership is the main topic, no?
Yeah, especially to regard family, the big family of good school. So we were thinking like if we could we could collectively own the land and then most of us family raise the kids there. No, it's gonna be like I don't know. It's gonna be like really fun.
Yeah, really fun, but it's also like Jatiwangi Art Factory or other friends, like for example, Arte Mas Action in Colombia. It's all their basic problem, no? Like if this could be solved, that would be,
that's another issues on how collectivities need challenge in the sense on how we're dealing with this. Yeah, I mean, like, because I think like every authorities or government and in this political context or stage, that also quite adaptive to our thinking as a collective.
Yeah.
So they have like,
pragmatically they will like it as well, of course. Yeah. But
so it's like it is good to to have this our second session later about this.
We first food and then land.
Food collective, okay, we could share the kitchens, but now but Gertrude, thank you very much.
Thank you
for your lovely afternoon and as well night here, and thank you for Good School for hosting us conversations, even though could be like it should be random. It should be random conversation since the beginning, but I'm afraid of Andan. Andan will not let us talk randomly.
No.
So
can Andan give some wise words to end the conversation? I need some wise words.
Gertrude, you are now sounds like Lara. You need a wise word from Andan. Andan, your hair a mute.
No.
Yeah.
Andan is hanging out with other friends.
All the wise words already came from you during the session, right?
Terima kasih. So, I don't know.
Hello?
We going? Yeah, hello. It's quite delayed, I think.
Andan is hanging out with other friends. We are hearing ourselves.
Thank you, Gertrude Flentge, and also hosted by Reza Afisina. We hope to listen more from your stories, actually, but maybe it can be next time that we can continue this walkie talkie, maybe in an offline session somewhere. So this is just a start, and let's. This walkie talkie is not only online storytelling session, but it can be also an offline storytelling session somewhere else. Thank you so much for Reza Afisina also for hosting this session, and the next walkie talkie will be July 15th next month. Then we are going to invite also friends to talk here as a storyteller, and then can be hosted by our friends also. By our friends also. So, a friend is hosted by a friend. Thank you so much also for JJ Riza, JJ Adi Brata, from Good School.
Yeah, from Good School. Terima kasih Good School.
Terima kasih.
Terima kasih,
Selamat makan.
Selamat malam.
Selamat malam. Selamat makan.
So, Gertrude, I'm going to see you more tomorrow. And then I'm going to see you more tomorrow. Muito obrigado.
Muito obrigado. Terima kasih
Boa
banyak.
noite.
Gracias.
Boa noite.
Buenas noches. Bye.
Dadah, Gertrude. Terima kasih. Dadah. Sampai ketemu, Gertrude. Dadah. Terima kasih ya. Dah.
Dah.
Dan.
Dah.